Oh, not yet. There we go. Now we're going to dive right into another episode of Dried Blood. This is episode 13 of season 5. We're almost towards the end of this season. We only got a couple episodes left. Two, I think.
Ooh.
2, and then potentially...
I get it. We can't. We weren't going to be the finale. That's fine.
Potentially. Yeah, well, you know...
We haven't decided the finale yet.
We haven't decided the finale yet, so if you
Yes.
want to be in the finale...
Champions.
It's... I don't know. We haven't quite nailed down what we're going to do.
You have to watch them all and be like, this one feels like a finale.
Thanks for making us look so unplanned at this moment and showcasing we haven't figured that part out.
Do a lot of planning.
I definitely didn't earn it. I mean, at this point, I'm 0-2-1, so I'm not in a position to be in any championship.
It's perfect. It's perfect. You have the best comeback story potential, though.
I mean, I think Bone Daddy hung up the boots, hung up the duster, but who knows? Maybe he'll come back. Maybe it's Bone Daddy's son, the grandson of Charles, Bone Daddy the third.
Bone baby. That's not.
Nope, don't do that one. Nope. That's a work in progress. That's a work in progress, everyone.
The boneling.
The boneling.
Boneling.
Little bonelet.
Yes, the little bonelet. Wait, like baby back ribs.
Yeah.
Yes.
This one's just a cook.
Yeah.
Bone Daddy continues to obviously not have a win, but I feel like every time he's in the arena, though, we like get a more complete picture of like his character and like him and Darcy's relationship, and then his parents, and then just all of these different facets to Bone Daddy. What stuck out to you tonight? Like, what did you add to Bone Daddy that you're excited about in his sheet of lore now?
I think that I think it's more the relationship with Darcy, the interesting, he holds her on such a pedestal, and with no room for error. And since joining the armor, the death armor, there wasn't the success that Bone Daddy would hope for, and his abilities obviously just did not line up very well against Ruby Rust. And I'm wondering, he's wondering definitely in this afterlife that of assimilating with the hunger, if it's time for some sort of either rebrand or like a re-strategizing of like what
it's not the worst idea. I mean, I was just a snake in the first one, and I was up against an eldritch horror, and I had just snake abilities, and I lent into that. I was like, no, I'm not. And these guys were like, you can like, if you want to fly, you can just say, oh, wings burst out your back. And I was like, no, I'm a snake that has been turned sentient enough to do some coding, and that's my entire story. And now I've been thrust into this situation with this like eldritch horror, and then I got assimilated, and I was like, this is going to be a fun turnaround of like I can do anything. I can just change up like his appearance and shit.
And you're
a bat wing for a while.
Your descriptions were disgusting too. They were awesome.
Maybe Darcy is the one that returns.
Oh,
Darcy is the main character next time. Huh?
Yes.
Avenging the Bone Daddy potentially.
Yeah,
that's potential. Now, on this end for Ruby Rust, we've had quite a reversal now. But before we got there, like as Mudcat said, it was kind of gruesome for him. Where do you come up with such inspiration?
Is that the question?
Yeah, I was like, "Are you okay?" Let's start with that.
He is Robert Hartley GM, as a fledgling dungeon master, game master. Like I try to think of like the most horrifying ideas in my head to put into words, but they don't compare to the stuff that Robert was coming up with today.
My favorite, I guess.
We're all physically queasy.
Yeah, good. I haven't done it right if I haven't. What were you saying, Mudcat?
I think my favorite description was the paintbrush, the imagery of the paintbrush
playing out.
I was like, that's good. I was like, that's fucking good.
So I'm a very visual person. Like I'm on the opposite end of the aphantasia spectrum. Like people who can't see anything at all with aphantasia, and I'm on the other side of like I could picture anything at all, and I could make anything happen to that thing, and I've got a vivid imagination, and so I just see things, and then I'm like, all right, just describe that, describe what you're seeing here. And the really funny thing is that I really don't like horrors. I don't do well with watching horrors. I don't read horror, But I've discovered over the last few years of doing Halloween specials on my channel, like every Halloween I'll do another special, and I really delve into them deep, and I don't pull any punches and stuff, and I put content warnings and trigger warnings and stuff saying like, these are the contents that I'm going to be covering in this Halloween special. And people have to often step away and be like, that was more than I was expecting. Because I found that I'm really good at running horror and describing horror and body horror and stuff, especially.
Yeah.
But I just don't like being on the receiving end of it, because then I'm not in control of it, I guess.
Well, there's an awareness too. Like when you know what bothers you, you know how to tap into those emotions for others.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a lot of TTRPGs is there is a lot of emotion that helps drives our decisions and what we make. Even tonight, right? Like, so with something that is as boisterous, like as kind of over the top and weird as our show is, what are kind of the emotions that you bring into a death match to help motivate your character to do and engage? Johnny, I'm going to throw this one to you first.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was funny kind of playing around with it at the beginning.
Yeah.
But like, usually I have this energy and this intensity about coming into these fights, like knowing what to expect. But seeing my foe today, I was just more confused than anything. And I'm sure like with Ruby Rust, like that kind of energy is like definitely getting into the head of the enemy. So I think for me, I was it's fun to come in with like, okay, we're going to try the tried and true methods. And then if those don't work, let's just get freaky with it and try to see what works. Throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
There's a lot of playfulness. Yeah.
It's like back when I used to do a lot of acting, and it was like the director will say, oh, you need to step over here on this line or whatever. And it's up to you as the actor to go, all right, well, that's a technical piece of direction that he needs me to do. So now it's up to me to decide what is it that's going to make me do that, because the director needs me to do it. It's not my job to be like, well, my character wouldn't do that. It's like, well, find a reason your character would do that, because the director needs you to do it. And in a similar way, like I'm here to do a D20 Deathmatch, and I know that I'm going to be fighting to the death. So it's my job to come up with a reason as to why I want to do that. And so I wanted to play around with the subverting that at the very beginning and being like, I don't want to do it, please kill me, I'm just a snake. Like, but then my intention was, as soon as we get in, the hunger element of me starts taking over, and these like these whips start ripping out from me, and like I'm trying to slither away into a corner, and then like tendrils keep like pulling me back into the center, and I'm like, no, I don't want to. Tendrils like opening my mouth and forcing me to bite and stuff like that. So I was going to be playing around with like that thing, but I didn't have to go that way, because Mudcat was like, hey, if you win, we'll turn you normal again. And I was like, all right, now he's got the reason to fight.
Yes.
Yes. It seemed in that moment that you needed I mean, I didn't know, obviously you had this other stuff, but it seemed in that moment that you were Ruby needed a reason to fight versus just like laying there and being
I
like,
wanted
kill
to play
me
around with the like, because you've obviously done this a lot, and you would have had so many people coming in with the same sort of like wrestly kind of attitudes of like, I'm going to take you down, I'm going to take you down, and then one of them gets their head weaved into the mat. But like,
I try to bring that energy, but just with like a like pretty hypersexual.
I figured like, I wonder if they've ever had somebody who's like like the reluctant hero kind of prototype of being like, I don't want to be here, but I know I have to be, kind of thing.
It's definitely a version of the reluctant hero stereotype.
Yeah, there was one where he was so incredibly apologetic, and his weapons were sentient and were like act out on their own.
Yes, that was My Name is Bife, and he was a cowboy. He was like a gunslinger, and every time he'd like bend over, his guns would fall out of the holster and shoot on accident.
Yeah,
but they were sentient though, which was what we found out later.
I love it.
Yeah,
and he was playing against Tej, who was basically a Destiny, if you play the video game Destiny, a guardian with a ghost. And so every time he got hit, he died and then was resurrected by his ghost.
He had like 1 HP.
So every time he got hit, he died. So it was a great match. But it's really fun for us, like in our setting, is that we can do stuff like that. It's just like we can be random and have this shit that makes no sense, and have Bone Daddy fighting a giant snake. And especially this season, having like the hunger of having consumed you, so now we've got these stories and these through lines that are going through the seasons.
That was really important
cool
to me at that point, because I was like, because I felt like Ruby Rust kind of like towards the end of the fight with Cinder, when I was, the hunger one, I was like, all right, I've kind of explored everything that I can do with just a giant snake. Like they've got some venom, they got some this. Like I will have to to bring this character back. I will need to have them. They've developed some mechanical arms, or they've got something that they can do something else in the next fight. And then with me losing the fight at the end of that, I was like, okay, this is going to work, because when I come back with this same character, now I can tap into that same sort of hunger things that he had.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I wish that I would have done a better job of, is making sure that this was like a new Bone Daddy. And I thought about playing at the very last second about okay, maybe it's his dad or something, like Bone Daddy.
Bone Daddy.
Well, let me throw you a compliment, because I actually liked a lot of how you pulled it in, because it creates a lot of easy flow for the viewers to say, I know him and here's where he's progressing. Calling upon even your dad and the references there, or the continual development of the friendship, now enemies with Thea, right? There's progress that can be made out of that is also parallels, like the physicality or the actual presence and identity versus the relational engagement.
And especially with somebody who is as unpredictable as Ruby Rust is, I bet it's nice to have something to be able to relate to a little bit easier. Evening comedy, I'm a little bit more of the straight man kind of approach. As obviously the classic straight man versus eldritch horror that you see all the time.
If the straight man in your scene is a leather daddy with a skeleton, a living skeleton, then you know that the other characters something even worse.
It's a sliding
But that's
scale.
what I love this. Yeah, we always get good variety and nobody brings the same thing. If somebody else brought in another Thea, it'd be too much. There's too much of the same thing. And so the fact that we get good contrast, and that's what makes both of your characters stand out, is because you're so drastically different that it makes those points and the decisions that the two of you made stand out so perfectly and make it enjoyable. I loved it. I did. I thought you both did great at making sure you stayed who you were and how you wanted to interpret your characters uniquely.
Yeah, I started taking some improv classes last month or the month before, and I one of the things that I think it was something that I've recognized in myself, but also wanted to make sure that with the characters that I play, but do a better job of and be more intentional with it, is making a character and sticking with it, rather than especially with the short medium of improvisational comedy. You have to be able to make a character that the viewers recognize and have something to grasp onto, and not have them change their position so quickly. And obviously we have a little bit more time to be able to play with, but it's definitely something that came to mind when building Bone Daddy.
Well, yeah, and that's something that on our side as a show, that we've kind of realized over time, of if we set up a scenario where people come back more than once, obviously then that gives people something to latch onto and to recognize and to grow with. Not that I think people didn't enjoy new people every week, but that was just on top of being a logistical nightmare, that was just we've had a lot of fun this season having these these character growths, and then tie in with other characters. And I'm sure as we go on and people come back and we filter in new people and people kind of play with new folks and kind of intermingle, that we'll get even more really great stories, kind of like you guys gave us tonight. I feel like that was a really fun story, and a lot of fast-paced action. Some of the matches have been a lot of fatigue heavy, and this one was just you guys were swinging the dice, especially the dice.
I will say the chaos rolls definitely gave us some pretty lowbrow humor with the I will say that's a little bit of a disappointment from the dice.
Why?
Yeah, definitely the dice and not the people that wrote the table, for sure.
No.
Little bit of a disappointment from the dice. That sums up most of my experiences in tabletop roleplay. I'm just I had such an idea in mind, and the dice were like, no, a 4. How about a 6?
Or the magic number 3.
Who did the art for the pixel art for the background here?
So all of the art this season, I guess we should probably talk about this more, but all of the art for the tokens and we have 8 background pieces this season. All of it was done by Young Khan. on
Awesome. Top
on
tier.
Twitter. If you've been around the Twitch space, you probably have seen him streaming or making emotes and stuff. I feel like he's a pretty well known artist in this space, and he does
That skeletal
awesome
is
work.
extremely cool.
Yeah,
it's super cool.
He does a
I love
lot
the
of
little-
different styles too.
yeah,
So
he's
And
very
the little
good.
like idle animations of all of the characters as well.
That's
mhm.
that's my and it's been really fun to work with him and give him these, just because he doesn't typically do D&D work. It's usually like emotes and like some anime stuff and t-shirts and that kind of things. So to bring this to him, being like, hey, I want character art and we want to have them moving, and we want these background pieces to use as our map, but they're not really maps, they're like setting pieces. And I want it to look like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat kind of like fighting stage. And he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but so it's, but he's I think he's enjoyed the challenge of like doing something new as well, because he's been in the show like checking it out and seeing how it all like fits together and looks the final product. I think
It looks awesome.
excited to get more artwork from him in the future.
Yeah.
More maps, more setting, more tokens.
Mhm.
Definitely, if you're looking for an artist, he's definitely he's worth the money.
Mudcat, can you do me one favor?
Yeah.
Or Becca, either. Could you just send me I know it just says Johnny Stanton right here now, but can you just send me a screen grab of what it says Bone Daddy? Because I feel like that's just something I'm gonna want to hold on to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yes. Here, should we all pose real quick for if we want to screenshot this later? Everyone, 3, 2, 1. There we go. And Mugcat can
I will
Photoshop that to say Bone Daddy.
I will definitely wait till it rolls around and get you one for Bone Daddy. But let's go ahead, and while we're waiting for that, let's wrap up here so we don't hold you guys all night. Final words from Ruby or Robert Hartley, from Johnny or Bone Daddy. Shout yourselves out. If you have any pieces of advice for the acolytes, whatever you want to say. Robert, what do you got?
Well, this was a lot of fun. Before I forget to say that, thank you very much for having me on again. Always a pleasure.
No worries.
And I'm glad that I got to win again finally. I was so disappointed about losing the last time because that broke my streak. That was the first time I'd ever lost in any kind of PvP TTRPG.
Wow.
So I'm glad I got to get back, claw back another win with that same character.
Let me get my numbers up.
If you if you liked my work here today, you can find me all over the internet at Robert Hartley GM. I'm a full-time professional Dungeons and Dragons content creator. I do D&D and TTRPG stuff, mostly for a comedy group called Viva La Dirt League over on YouTube, but also in my own right at Robert Hartley GM on Twitch and YouTube and all sorts of places. I will probably be back on D20 Deathmatch at some point in the future, so keep an eye out.
You're always welcome. Johnny.
I am Johnny Stanton. Johnny Stanton IV on all socials. Like Robert said, I had a ton of fun. I'm always excited to be able to show up here on D20 Deathmatch. The energy that comes here, you cannot find anywhere else on the internet. You can find me in Philadelphia at the end of this month over at PAX Unplugged. I will be just kind of doing some fun stuff, not like anything crazy. I'll be in the Himbos game. Maybe that hasn't been announced yet, but you guys get a little secret exclusive on Sunday. Outside of that, I don't think I'm doing any panels. I'm kind of just hanging out and having a good time. Hopefully you see me there and talk to me, take a picture. Don't be afraid to say hi. But yeah, check out my TikTok and Reels series called Athletics Check, where I combine the world of sports and the world of D&D, specifically football, actually, with sports. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun to try to figure out what kind of crossover that has, and some people seem to enjoy it. So see if you do.
All right. Perfect. Well, thank you guys for being on, and thank acolytes at home for hanging out with us. We will see you on the next D20 Deathmatch.